All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, chat moving quickly there. Lemon Curd Zero, happiest Tuesday. Vermont Power, clanking at Citizen Cider today. Russ Hanneman says summoning all merry clanksters. And Illustrator, you messed with the wrong zillionaire autist green shit. Yeah, there's definitely some ADL news that we got to talk about today. That's the main event. Also, the nation of India might be renaming itself to Bharat, actually. And we've got Al Sharpton grifting as usual. I'll throw that in mainly because it's fun to ridicule Al Sharpton, much like the ADL. They're basically on the same page when it comes to the shakedowns, the mafioso tactics that they use. Very, very intriguing. All of my tabs appear to be working properly. It's going to be a fun day. Had a walk this morning, actually. Spent much of the morning actually out in a little wooded area that's not far from here, and got some mushroom pics. I put them on Twitter if you want to see those, and also discovered the local area where the teenagers clearly go to party and probably smoke weed and drink and shit like that. I'm going to freak them out. I've got a cunning plan in mind. Since we're approaching Halloween, I've got a cunning plan with regards to the little stick men from the Blair Witch Project and other spooky shit. So I'm going to scare some local teenagers. It's going to be hilarious. Can't wait for that. Power Pooper 96 is now a monthly supporter over on Rumble. Thank you very much. Again, I don't have the option when I go to somebody else's channel to actually become a monthly supporter. I don't know. Maybe you have to link a bank account or something like that. I get paid via wire transfer. Bayonne 201. Good morning from Gay Stowe, Vermont. It's Kitty motherfucking Tuesday, bitches. Happy Mind sent $1. No comment though. Thank you very much. We'll start right off with the with the ADL. Elon Musk blames ADL for lost revenue. Says he's against anti-Semitism of any kind. The tech mogul said Monday he was considering legal action after blaming pressure from the Anti-Defamation League for lost advertisers. I wish him well in bothering to do so, and they're kind of untouchable in the legal sense. Right now, there's a hashtag making its rounds on Twitter, and it's definitely spread out further than that. It's rife on 4chan, etc., to ban the ADL. A little bit of a glib term. Here are my thoughts on that. I don't support banning any individual member of the ADL from speaking their mind the same way that anybody else does. I don't care if they want to spout off their horseshit on Twitter or any other site, and it is horseshit generally speaking. Their deep-seated hatred of the First Amendment, the fact that their organization was founded on blaming the black guy in the literal sense. If you look up the founding of the ADL, you'll find it out for yourself. That's fine. You can be forthcoming with your views the same as anybody else is, and it's all good. That's the nature of the internet, as the modern public square. You have the right to express yourself. What I have a problem with is that the ADL doesn't believe in the right of other people to countermand them. They don't believe in the right of other people to speak freely. They label them Nazis. They label them anti-Semitic. When they spray their shit at the wall through a fan and it splatters everywhere, they expect other people to bathe gleefully in their poop. That's basically the ADL. Again, we'll be talking separately about Al Sharpton. There's not really a fundamental big difference between a Sharpton or a Jesse Jackson and what the ADL gets up to. It's a grift. It's a shakedown. Basically, if your corporation plays nice with us, talks to us, takes our advice, does what we say effectively, we won't break your kneecaps mafia style. That's basically what it boils down to. Any individual member of the ADL, including Greenblatt, their current leader, free to express their personal opinions and shut off comments, usually shut off replies on Twitter, I've noticed, on Twitter or any other site, or X, as they now call it. I'll continue to use Twitter because people know it as Twitter, and that's fine. You have the right to speak freely. Other people have that right too, and that's what the ADL doesn't get. And the simps that are supporting the ADL and saying, "Oh my God, well, you say you're a free speech purist, but now you're trying to ban the ADL." No, that's not really what the hashtag actually refers to. Nobody is claiming that the ADL's members are going to be banned from speaking on Twitter. They're saying that the ADL needs to be stripped of its influence over Twitter and other websites as well, YouTube and the whole nine yards. They shouldn't have any influence anywhere because it's a shakedown. It's sort of like unions. The union boss gets paid 7 figures and supposedly looks after the workers' rights, but the union boss isn't even a worker. That's sort of how the ADL works. Earlier, I saw a post by MSNBC, and they were like, Elon Musk is repeating the anti-Semitic tirades against the ADL or something to that effect. And I responded, and I'm like, do you think that the ADL is a monolithic entity that proposes that every Jew in the world agrees with their proposition that free speech needs to be heavily limited in order to prevent criticism of, ironically enough, the ADL? I choose not to think so. And I mentioned to MSNBC, they get ratioed easily. I'm sure that my post will ratio theirs for like the 5th or 6th time this year. It's no longer very hard to do. They don't get much engagement. And I said, maybe you're the anti-Semites. You're basically proposing to speak for every Jewish individual in the Western Hemisphere. I don't think that the average Jewish person even cares about the ADL, honestly. It's sort of like BLM. Do they speak for all black people? Does the Goyim Defense League speak for me? No. The fact that they're pretending to promote white values or white rights or something like that doesn't mean I have anything to do with them. They're an organization. I'm not a member of it. I have nothing in common with these freaks and morons with their prison tats and their methamphetamine. It's effectively support for the ADL among some groups, especially the legacy media, boils down more to a stereotype than anything else, which is hilarious to me. And, you claim to be fighting defamation while you literally defame people. I haven't been defamed by the ADL so far. I had to make do with the Wall Street Journal and BuzzFeed and a few other groups. And I think there was a Gizmodo article about 5 or 6 years ago. Can't remember whether it was Gizmodo or not. One of those similar sites. Anyway, so I look forward to being labeled a ranting, malevolent Nazi by the ADL someday. And I aspire to that because you will be judged by your enemies. And if the ADL doesn't like you, unless you are a complete goddamn lunatic who's bombing synagogues or something, it probably means that you're a good person. It probably means that you stand for the First Amendment. Elon Musk is running up against a real hard wall here, though. When you go up against these groups with all the money that they have, all the connections that they have, you got to be a little bit wary. So, Elon Musk might bite off more than even he can chew. It doesn't matter if he's a multi-billionaire with significant investments and so forth. The ADL will probably come against him fairly hard. Sparky, greetings, fearless leader. Greetings to you as well. Francis Perrault, let my wife Jess know I love her. I'm busy working. Francis loves you, Jess. Fallen Hero 4567 sent $1. No comment, thank you. Dennis the Menace, is witchcraft made up bullshit like Wicca? No, it is not. Although some tales of it are entirely made up. I was actually going to do a video this morning that would have touched upon that subject, but the cat decided that I wasn't allowed to make the video by caterwauling and howling and upsetting the baby, and then the baby didn't calm back down. It's harder for me to focus when I have a cacophony in the background. The cat's going row, row. The baby's going wow, wow. And I'm like, fucking working conditions. I'd rather work in a coal mine sometimes. Johnny, do you think we will end the world with Ukraine? No, that's unlikely. But the fact that we're even discussing the topic as a possibility should give people pause. That's my summation of the Ukraine situation. Wasted Bonehead, good morning from the grave. Hello to our resident zombie, although I would point out that I did do a poll, you versus Sigilstone, who pooped on your gravestone. You came out a couple points behind Sigilstone. Yes, the Clankers narrowly siding with the land of the living as opposed to the undead. So as Halloween approaches, we're gonna have to have a feud of some sort. It's gonna be some fun shit. Sigilstone, speak of the devil. The ADL isn't legally untouchable. They've been sued and forced to pay out for defamation numerous times. And Blair Witch Project, what the fuck is this dude? 2003? I love the Blair Witch Project. I think, ironically, it's one of those things that I think is highly rated while being underrated, actually. It's a brilliant movie. Think about how many people passed out in the movie theaters because they thought it was real, because they didn't read the fine print and it was the 90s, we'll give them a pass. Power Pooper 96. Fulton County Sheriff Pat Labatt was in a gay scene in 2005 web series called The Closet. Open source facial recognition confirms it's him. Sent screen caps on Gab. I'll take a look at that. That's quite interesting. Citizen Zero, exterminate the ADL. I don't want to do that. I just want them to shut the fuck up about content creators because they've been defaming them for years and years in order to make money. And moolah is what their goal is. Same as Sharpton, that we'll be talking about in a moment. Johnny, I already read that one. Super Slaw, Baked Alaska is a federal agent. I have no information on Baked Alaska being a Fed, to be clear. Although one time I was kind of drunk at the time, admittedly. I was in one of his live streams, and I was quoting G.G. Allen lyrics, and he emailed me afterwards, and he was like, are you making a threat against me or something like that? I'm like, no, I was quoting G.G. Allen lyrics. He could have copy pasted them. He's like, oh, he stopped. He left me alone. I guess he thought I was issuing a death threat by, again, quoting a punk rocker that literally everyone knows about. The Patriot Cairo, Joe Boobin, nipple pincher in chief. Oh my. Paul Ross, excerpt from an article by Mike Cernovich. I wear a tight tank top under my shirts. It comes in handy when you need to clean up bodily fluids. I came into my tank top, zipped up, and said, let's go. Huh. I don't know if that's a real quote or something that's made up for fun purposes. Grandpa Nurgle, half off poxes with promo code STICKS at Grandpa Nurgle's Palace of Plagues. Offer the rotting carcasses to Nurgle. Swamp Donkey, why is it that so many Jewish people and orgs are leftists? I have to be careful with reading these for the purposes of a YouTube live stream. And did you see that Netanyahu of Israel deporting the Africans because of riots? Lol. Yes, some Eritreans, I believe, actually. Yeah, I saw that. I think it's, I don't know, actually. I would think, like, if you're a Jew, I'll put myself in a Jew's shoes here. And, my people have been holocausted and stuff like that. I think that I would want a lot of guns. And I think that I would basically want to be fucking left alone by any state that it was incepted. I think I would still be a libertarian individual. I don't know why. It's inexplicable. Sort of voting against your best interests, I suppose. Wasted Bonehead. It was rigged. He pooped on my grave. Who does that? I demand a recount from the community of riggers. Alan Smithy. I cast Turn Undead on Wasted Bonehead. I think he's already undead, though. He's a zombie. Jens Peterson sent 20 DKK. No comment. Thank you very much. I don't know what DKK is. Some sort of currency. He sent 20 of them. Wish I had it in paper money. I want to collect money from around the world. People have sent me all sorts of interesting stuff. I actually got a really cool coin, an old Dutch coin the other day in the change machine. And because they use euros now, but it was one of the older, like the pre-euro currency. And I was like, yes, haha, excellent day. The Patriot Cairo sticks. Let's not get into hyper-theoreticals. Sparky. ADL actively perpetuates Jewish stereotypes so they don't work themselves out of a job. Despite most globalists not being Jewish or otherwise Semitic, the ADL calls the word globalist anti-Semitic. Yes, or if you complain about bankers, which is like, it's kind of telling now, isn't it? If you talk about the bankers being corrupt or something like that, they consider it anti-Semitic. It's like, the average Jew doesn't do banking. What are you getting at, dude? I think it's you that has the problem with stereotyping other people. Maxwell JW, your thoughts about the conspiracies surrounding the Hawaii fires? Attention seekers, or did over 1,000 people actually get abducted? I think that they're going to find a lot of those people burned to a crisp in their own homes because they botched the effort there in Maui. Unfortunately, I think most of those people are dead. I'm sure that some people probably were abducted. Somebody comes in while the fire is still going. They know that emergency response is elsewhere. And they're like, hey, kid, quick, get into my car. We'll escape or something like that. And they happen to be in a slum or something. Unfortunately, it's probably a few cases of that. Jens Peterson. Danish Kingdom Kroner. Oh, a den. Mark Guidetti. Tommy Robinson did a doc on the ADL. He showed how in 2012, Obama replaced all the leadership of the ADL with staff from his admin. Obama did the same with the SPLC and ACLU. All three are extensions of the DNC. Yeah, there is definitely an overlap between these organizations. David Brock's people as well. Others, the Soros Foundation. Sigil Stone, only zombies rig elections. C, Congress. Yeah, I mean, you do make a good point. I mean, look at Dianne Feinstein. Although I don't know about zombies so much as ghouls. She looks literally like a Fallout ghoul. Swamp Donkey. The origins of the ADL are very dark, by the way. They were created to defend a rapist and murderer called Leo Frank, who they blamed an innocent black guy. Yeah, I already talked about that. Leo Frank may or may not have been guilty, but the case did break down into blame the black guy. And they used some colorful language in their court filings, by the way, that I literally can't repeat on YouTube without getting banned. It's a sign of the times, I suppose they would say. They've never fully explained their feelings about that. Fair dispute. With the voice to Parliament vote in Australia being the 14th of October, are you able to do an announcement the day before? Yeah, does that have to do with the Constitution and Indigenous people there particularly? I'll look into that, definitely. Sigil Stone. Turn undead doesn't even make people into undead. It damages undead and makes them run away. Old school D&D spell. I think it depends on the game that you're playing, actually. Jens Peterson. Why are people in tech always pink-haired freaks? Well, they're the ones that do like the HR stuff. No, they're not the ones doing the coding, though. They're the ones doing the conceptual design and things like that. I think that it's Joe Schmo is the one that's actually doing the code. Alarian Horizon. What country would Nikki Haley invade first? I say North Korea. Iran, I think, would be more likely. Next news story. This is MSNBC simping for Al Sharpton. Now, keep in mind, Al Sharpton is an old dude now. He's almost 70. Not as old as Jesse Jackson, though, to be clear. And he's been race grifting now for decades. His whole basic shakedown methodology is paired with the ADL. You go in, even fucking Howard Stern back in the day, by the way, would complain about this and talk about this. Shh, don't tell anybody, because everyone knows that if his blackface clips come out, then his career might end. And this is known. I mean, people were talking about this openly. Sharpton goes in with his entourage, with his people, and says, there's a problem in your business. There aren't enough black employees. You're not woke enough, basically proto-woke at that point, or something like that. But if you donate to me, there will be no problems. In fact, we'll beat up on one of your competitors based on who pays us more. That was the whole goddamn tactic. BLM's done the same thing. The SPLC does the same thing now. The ADL too. By the way, some people have it in mind, and I see this around, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? They're like, well, the ADL was good at one time and necessary, but they've been corrupted. Al Sharpton was a good dude back in 1975 or something like that, but now he's a grifter. And no. They were never good. It was always a shakedown. It was always mafia-style tactics. They basically took the tactics of the Italian fucking mafia and they adapted them to more business-style ventures. Like the mafia decided to go clean, too. Now they own, fucking restaurants and shit like that, and then they just cook the books and they make money that way. They prefer not to assassinate people when not necessary. They've learned more restraint. They probably make more money and control more politicians as a result of this. Sharpton, though, is one of the ultimate grifters of all time. He's the Black David Duke. It's ironic because David Duke gets called a racist bigot. Basically, he says the same thing for a different race that Al Sharpton says for black people. Meanwhile, I don't think that Sharpton is living in the ghetto. I think he has a mansion, actually. He's quite wealthy. He also, was it Sharpton or Jackson that cheated on their taxes and Obama basically let him go and never did anything about it? I think it was Sharpton, if I remember correctly. It's a bunch of bullshit, basically. It's basically, hey, fellow black people, give me money. But really, with Sharpton, it's more, hey, white people feel guilty and give me money. Give me money for the black community. And by black community, I mean myself and the handful of black people in my rich neighborhood. He's been doing this for a long time. Here's the post. Sharpton graciously schooled the pro-Trump rappers and anyone else who thinks Trump being tied up in the legal system boosts his credibility with black voters. This is an MSNBC opinion piece. Now, of course, nobody's saying that. They're saying that Donald Trump is being legally persecuted, unlawfully, ironically enough. That puts him in league with the same people that Sharpton and others themselves have complained about for decades. This black person got crack placed in their vehicle. The officer planted crack on them. This black person got brutalized by the police simply because they wore the wrong colors in the wrong neighborhood or something. That black person, civil asset forfeiture, by the way, I agree with the far left on that particular topic, had things stolen from him during a raid of his home that was never even, properly warranted to begin with. They just sort of burst in and start stealing computers and shit like that. Well, I mean, the left is fundamentally correct. The justice system is all sorts of fucking screwy. But then all of a sudden, the white dude, the great white hope, Donald Trump, the great orange hope, Donald Trump shows up, and all of a sudden they do a 180 on policing, and now they're all about back the blue, especially the FBI and people like that. And now the left is inexplicably against rap, actually. I can understand why Donald Trump would be popular among rappers. Razor Fist is right, too. He's become the outlaw president. He's the dude that you throw at the system like a goddamn atom bomb. He's the dude that you elect to say to the system, you're not working, we're not impressed, we're also not afraid of your goddamn threats. We're electing him anyway, even though he's probably at that point running from house arrest from the fucking Mar-a-Lago. I do suspect that some of the charges will actually stick. That's the reason why they've made so many of them. I think he can win anyway. What more of an outlawish, outlandish, purely American thing can you possibly do than at this point to support Donald Trump? Because I'm drawing a blank. I don't think that there's anything else that you can do, at least in the civic sense, at the ballot box instead of the bullet box, that would be more outlaw and more outland. No, I can't think of anything. No shit, people who are edgy and who make edgy music like Donald Trump. But Al Sharpton, the outdated race grifter, has taken them back behind the woodshed and given them a good spanking. I don't think that he's changing anyone's minds. And when MSNBC repeatedly posts the same thing for effect, and they keep getting ratioed and owned, of course, usually that's because it's a bad take. I've noticed this on Twitter. I think that some of you may have noticed it as well. Awful lot of super chats there. Jesus Christ. Giving me too much money for me to keep up. It's a big problem. There are worse problems in the world, admittedly. Jens Peterson, I disagree, Sticks. There are many, and I myself work in tech, but I am the only one I have met that holds populistic libertarian views. Well, good on you for being the unique one in your office space. Dan Malone, 53. The legal system weaponized against Trump, a flipperoo RICO case, appears to be more fitting towards those currently persecuting Trump. Agreed, absolutely. Dennis the Menace, what forms of magic are BS apart from Wicca? Well, Wicca has some good aspects too. Hedge Wicca is basically, growing plants and liking animals and, stuff like that. I don't see any problem with that. I mean, it might be new age bullshit, but that doesn't mean that the religion, quote unquote, itself is wrong. I would say that some of the high ritual magic is deliberately screwy. I've edited many grimoires. For instance, the Grimorium Verum. There's one part in the Grimorium Verum that posits that you should take the dead head of, you have to dig him up first, of a hanged man, specifically a thief. And that if you put beans in the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, 7 beans in total, although the original text only counts 5, I interpreted as 7 because there are 7 places to put them and they name all those orify. And you bury it at a crossroads and let the beans sprout, I think basically. That you can summon a demon that'll give you free alcohol and show you where buried treasure is. I have a sneaking suspicion that this was put in here in hopes by the author that some of his dumber friends would do that and he would be off in the bushes watching them and laughing. And that's a repeat convention within grimoires. The Petit Albert has similar passages. The Grand Grimoire certainly has similar passages. There's several versions of that. Et cetera, et cetera. So some of that high magic, you got to take some of those entries with a grain of salt. Some of it is very pedestrian, herbal cures, poisons, actually. Methods like there was one creating dough balls with valerian in them. And you would throw those dough balls into like a pond or something. The fish eat them and then they get poisoned and they float to the surface. An easy way to fish is how it was labeled. I can't remember which grimoire that was. Well, I mean, it's not magic, but it's definitely a skill that most people wouldn't have known of at the time. And but I believe in literal magic, not just the tips and tricks sort of bric-a-brac stuff. I believe in literal magic because I've literally seen a demon. I've had various experiences that go beyond the mundane. I don't ask anyone to believe me on these things because I'm not religious. I'm simply saying my own personal experience leads me there. Sparky. Sharpton did a decent job as James Brown's manager. Jack Nolf, congrats on getting your license. Went on a trip to the Netherlands and rented a car. Got 4 tickets when we got back to Kansas. Lol. Thanks for the recommendations also. Clank. It's a lot of tickets. Jesus. BW, Tucker says that he thinks Biden will make a hot war with Russia to stay in power. It's possible, although it would probably lead to not him being in power, but him being annihilated in a nuclear strike. So I would, on that one, I would say jury's still out. Adonis Adams, my schedule change has made it difficult to tune into your live streams, but I'm still a big fan. I hope you understand. By the way, what's best way to tell if something's a distraction? Clank? Well, I thank you for tuning in anyway. And yeah, I fully understand. You know, schedules can be malleable when you have a little kid as well. Just saying. The best way to tell is if it distracts you. It's the long and short of it. The shiny tinsel is probably not what you should be focused on at the time. This is exactly what the cat was doing this morning, by the way. Only she was doing it right outside of the baby's door. Josh Palillo, good morning, Sticks. My grandmother brought this up. Do you think Trump should have stayed in jail to show how batshit it would be to keep him there? No, that would be a bad. He's going to go campaigning. The Patriot Cairo, Bongino covered one of the actual creditable sources at Newsmax, reported there is extremely incriminating Biden-Ukraine tape dropping before Halloween. Hopefully, that would be nice. Although, keep in mind, if Biden gets knocked aside, you could end up with Trump v. Gavin Newsom or someone who's actually semi-electable. Aussie's Robots, morning. What do you think of Turley's take that the deep state is using the imperialistic tactics it's used in other countries against our own population? Yeah, they've learned from their experience over the last century. Definitely. I would agree with that. Sparky, fun fact. Some may find it hard to believe now. Al Sharpton was a child prodigy. As a kid in rural Alabama, he was reading by 4 years old and preaching by 8 years old in a traveling church show. Oh, he's definitely talented. Look at all the millions that he's made. No, he's got exactly the same qualifications as any other good evangelical, only he preaches race instead of Jesus. The bonus holes. Help is needed. Please share our pinned X post on Elon's posts about the ADL. Some of our band members, former band, the Defamation League, were wrongfully banned and need to be reinstated. You can look up the bonus holes there. Phil H. Should Republicans, constitutionalists, libertarians, etc., switch parties to Democrat to help RFK? Seems like Trump will have the Republican nomination. No, I do not believe that. Also, I don't support RFK Jr. He's a standard liberal with a couple of good ideas and nothing more. I mean, Biden could croak at any given time anyway. He's clearly not in greatest of health, so. Let's see. Sigilstone, when Italians do it, it's a mafia. When Jews do it, it's the ADL. When the government does it, it's taxes. When blacks do it, it's Al Sharpton. Yeah, I mean, you get those groups among, or David Duke for white people. It's the same fucking grift. Wasted bonehead. Sticks, how far will the deep state go to avoid getting Trump elected? If he survives assassins and gets elected, how far will they go? They'd probably try again. That's the problem. They are that desperate, in my opinion. Swamp Donkey, if an anti-white, if it ain't white, it ain't right to these people. The BLM Sharpton types are just the Klan with a tan. They have too much power and legal warfare powers. Yeah, well, the ADL has been losing power, which is why they're becoming more vocal, but they are still a threat to free speech. Deverick, first rant, do you think Elon will be successful in dismantling the Defamation League? Maybe. We'll see what happens with his platform. He's known to make wide-sweeping statements and then not quite follow through. He's done that before. Swamp Donkey, sorry, if it's white, it ain't right, to my other super chat. Sigilstone, planting a bean head to call a demon reminds me a bit about calling the Eldritch God. If you saw ants forming a circle and chanting your name, wouldn't you go and see and play along to see where it goes? Yeah, and obviously. Ozzy's Robots, I recommend Heel versus Babyface's rant against Bethesda's new game Starfield and its use of pronouns, as well as Carl Benjamin's epic Twitter support of it. Yeah, I've seen Razor weighing in on that as well. Next news story. We have monumental political news here, and it's trending actually as we speak. India may gain a new name. That is, India, the nation, may be renamed as Bharat. This is a more historical name, and I'll get a little bit into it. The nation that we know as India, which also once included Pakistan, Bangladesh, I think part of Nepal, if I remember correctly. Not 100% sure of that. The subcontinental region. As a Hindu nation, was not always officially known as India. That is not a colonial invention, although that's the way it's being perceived by people, the anti-colonial movement. It was actually Herodotus in ancient Greece who first appears to have coined that term, or at least popularized it. Another name is Bharat, and also Hindustan, because, of course, the national religion is Hinduism. I strongly support this move. Although, I like the name India. I think it sounds cool, and I really do like India. I don't know exactly why, and it's not just Indian food, which I consider delicious. For some reason, I've always really wanted to visit India. Even when I was a kid, I was thinking, wow, this is pretty cool. There's cobras there. They've got this interesting religion. I think if I was forced to choose an organized mainstream religion, I'd probably fucking become a Hindu. And so I have an appreciation for India, but that's not a historical traditionalistic name. It's effectively, in at least the modern sense, it's semi-colonial in nature. Now imagine you've got a nation, it's got nukes, it just landed on the South Pole of the moon, first nation to do that. You're really making leaps and strides in terms of technology, your economy. You've become one of the big players on the world stage, but you still have this sort of trapping colonial remnant. I can understand why the people of India, or possibly Bharat, as soon as fairly soon from now, I can understand why they would potentially want to change their nation's name. About the only detriment is tourism, I suppose, because some people can find India on a map, but then they find out that there's this new nation that was India, and you have to change all the encyclopedia entries and stuff. This is a link in the description, by the way. It's Sadhguru talking about it. I support the move, generally speaking. The people of India have a lot to be proud of at this point, especially in the last few years. And if they want to change their nation's name, then fucking they should go ahead and do it. It also plays a role in Hindu nationalism. So India is the only majority Hindu nation in the world. It's surrounded mainly by Islamic and atheistic nations. They want to maintain what they have to have a homeland for their particular religion, one of the oldest religions in the world, by the way, thousands of years old, far older than Christianity. I support them in this. I think that Hinduism is a good thing. There are elements of it, as well as cultural elements there. For instance, gang rape can be a problem in rural parts of India that need to be worked on, of course. But overall, I support Hinduism insofar as I can legitimately support an organized religion at all. I think that it's interesting, certainly interesting historically speaking. And I wish the people of, well, I guess Bharat, well on their ventures. I think that it's wise. I think that the change would be a good one. Also, you get a huge amount of attention. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, look, we just landed on the moon. Now we're changing our nation's name. Kind of a Herculean move now, isn't it? And of course, again, the term India really is from ancient Greece. It wasn't a native inclusive term that was made by the people actually living there, and encompasses a land area different from modern day India anyway. So I think it'll be very, very interesting to see whether they actually change the name, but I would give better than even odds that it actually goes from India to Bharat. It'll be very interesting to me. Just an aside there. Don Keedick with Dr. Jill popping hot with the coof. We all need to be praying Joe stays healthy and doesn't usher in President Kamala. God help us all. Yes, please, to those out there that are praying people, I happen not to be one of them, please pray that Joe Biden does not get the coof and gets severely ill or dies or anything like that, because the alternative is so much worse that people right now that hate Joe Biden are praying for his health. Please don't kiss Jill on the lips tonight, Joe. And just don't eat the ice cream after she's already taken a couple of bites. Just maintain your health, my dude. Remain healthy. Joe Hoffman, Wom to all. Hope all have a great day. There's a clay animation worth looking up on YouTube. Vordum, the Prince of Death. The fight scenes are amazing. Interesting. Ozzy's Robot. Saw a demon in 1981. Looked like a Matrix Sentinel. Interesting. Mrs. Rapture Farms. Clank. So Rapture Farms. Love, peace, chicken grease. Phil H. We have many disagreements with RFK. Isn't he miles better? Libertarians, with the help of Trump, alter the GOP. Isn't it time to do the same to the Dems? No, I want the Dems to collapse. I don't really give a fuck about whether they survive as a party at all at this point, because they become so corrupt. Or most of the GOP, for that mention. Wookie Gremlin. Hey, Sticks, can you tell Chris he's gay? Thanks. Okay, Chris, I think that you might be a homosexual. Jay's gaping butthole. See the mosquito helicopter? Bizarre. I haven't seen that story, but you're the second person who's mentioned it. I'll look that up later. Yeah, let me cue it up. That way I won't forget. I'll talk about that tomorrow probably. Patriot Cairo, Dr. Jones, chilled monkey brains. Yeah. I actually thought the food looked pretty good in that scene. Everyone else is all grossed out. People were critical of the second Indiana Jones movie, okay, Temple of Doom. Let me rant here for a second, because it portrayed a negative stereotype of the Hindu people. What was negative about it? It looked cool. I want to eat like live snakes and monkey brain. Well, I might pass on the monkey brains due to the prions, but I want to eat snakes and spiders and stuff like that. I don't see that as culturally inappropriate or a slur or anything against the people of India. I thought it looked tasty. Every Indian food that I've ever eaten, including those that I've cooked, has come out delicious to me. So, Sparky, what's the deal with Vivek appearing along with Pete Buttigieg as random questioners in a town hall several presidential elections ago? Is Vivek establishment groomed? I don't trust him for Trump VP. In the end, you will see the true side of multiple individuals within the GOP field. I will not weigh in further because I don't want to spoil the joke. I did tell you some time ago there's at least one individual in the GOP field pretending to be populistic while being fully establishment, and at least one individual pretending to be uniparty who's actually on Trump's payroll or working for Trump without Trump's knowledge. It's not entirely clear. You can go ahead and debate who you think that I'm talking about in the comments if you wish. Sigil Stone, India can land shit on the moon, but can't land shit in the toilet. Has nuclear weapons, but receives foreign aid. That nation makes me scratch my head for sure. Well, I mean, they've developed rapidly over the last few decades. The fact that they are capable of putting a lunar rover up on the south pole of the moon, the first nation to do so, does put them in a very scant league of nations capable of that technology. I wish them well. There are plenty of problems in India. Mainly, it's because the population spiraled upwards so quickly that it was impossible to build proper infrastructure for the average person. Hence, the Pajit in the street sort of meme and things like that. It's funny, but it's the result of overpopulation in certain areas more than anything else. I personally think Indian food is delicious. India looks great, and I'd love to go and see a fakir charming a cobra. Corey Gibson, married to an Indian woman, and will confirm all the Indian food she makes is delicious. I wonder whose is better, hers or mine? I don't know. I'm pretty good at making masala and aloo palak and things like that. I'm obsessed with Indian food. I think it's the tastiest. Okay, I'll give the tastiest food is for Italy. I'll go basic bitch mode. India's a close second. Aussie's Robots. Vivek is a McKinsey GOP version of Buttigieg. Nah. Wasted bonehead. Every Republican candidate except for Trump in the primaries is a joke. Now, some of them aren't joking. That's the funny part of it. The fact that they're not joking about their runs is the joke. Imagine it's a jokeception. Next news story. Biden's age, economic worries, and endanger re-election in 2024. Wall Street Journal poll finds nearly 3/4 of voters, and a majority, by the way, even of Democrats, think that the president is too old to run again. And that's not all. I'm not going to go in depth into that article. The majority of Democrats don't want Biden to run again. The majority of Democrats think that he's unelectable. It's very funny because I keep hearing from people that Trump's the unelectable one, yet he's running about even in general polling, which is something he never accomplished in 2016 and by far never accomplished in 2020. He's ahead in literally every state's primary. So, most people, like Lee Zeldin came out the other day and was like, look, Trump is inevitable. Just give up. We need to unify as a party. Trump will win re-election. And he gets called out as being a bad person by all of the DeSantis fans, which is funny because you were all rooting for Lee Zeldin. And I saw posts like, well, Lee Zeldin used to be such a great guy, but now he's just flown the coop. No, it's called he's got common sense. He endorsed Trump before, you'll remember as well. When Trump is almost 40 points ahead in the aggregate, he no longer has a serious opponent. He will be the nominee unless he is dead or unless he is utterly legally disqualified from ballot. And so the GOP goes with someone else, in which case he probably gets more votes than the GOP nominee on a goddamn write-in campaign under house arrest at the Mar-a-Lago. There is this tiniest chance that in such a case, the nation would say enough is of this horseshit to the degree where he wins on a write-in campaign as an independent. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. It has to do with organization. Do you think that the mainline GOP right now is organized? I don't really think so. I think they've got their head in the sand and up their ass at the same time, inexplicably. I guess that they got a lot of sand stuck in their colon somehow. Donald Trump will almost certainly be nominated. He deserves to win again. I will be voting for him, certainly. I'll be stumping for him as much as I can digitally. Of course, I'm in a different continent at the moment, so it's kind of hard for me to go knock on doors in Middletown, America, or something like that. And I'll encourage others to do the same thing. If everyone just harvests one ballot, knocks on 5 or 6 doors, a single day's effort by enough people would swing the election. That's literally all you need. Joe Biden has the problem of being incapable of sound judgment. He's demented. He's incapable of debating. Can you imagine Joe Biden in his current situation? He goes up on stage with Trump. About the only thing that he can do is do the come on man thing. That's all he did in the last debates as well. And he'll gained 4 years since then. He's less coherent now. He could topple off the goddamn podium and crack his skull on the stage light. The man is nuts. He's a complete wreck. He's got no economy to run on. He's got no major diplomatic successes to run on. He'll be speaking to an echo chamber of people who would vote for any Democrat anyway, rambling about the infrastructure bill. And that's basically it. That's the only accomplishment is, hey, man, I passed the $2 bazillion infrastructure bill. Meanwhile, Donald Trump will say, oh, you remember what it was like in 2018 or 2019 and how much better it was? Things costed a lot less. Your taxes were lower, blah, blah, blah. We weren't in any new wars. We didn't have this Ukraine bullshit. We were trying to make peace with North Korea. Look at the difference. It couldn't be more stark. Trump can encapsulate his debate or his entire campaign in a couple of paragraphs. Joe Biden, meanwhile, only has one sentence to utter. I passed the infrastructure bill. That's it. Well, that's really wonderful. Or maybe he tacks on another sentence. Oh, and by the way, conditional somewhat student loan debt forgiveness after the courts knocked me down in the first place. For people that are all over 50, by the way, because they had to have been paying off those loans for several decades in order to qualify. That's really going to go well, by the way, Joe, for Gen Z voters. I'm sure that they're very happy to know that if they make their payments every single month for the next 20 years, that under your plan, that won't be a thing at that point. They'll qualify for some degree of debt forgiveness. I'm sure that will go over very well to the low info, low attention span crowd that is Gen Z. They'll love you, dude. Just like those kids at that middle school that you visited. Mark Guidetti, every country in Western Europe gets more foreign aid from the U.S. than any other nation. It's called NATO, and we pay for it. True. Although that changed somewhat under Trump. The Germans and Polish are now pulling their own weight. They've massively upped their defense budgets. Joshua Bartholomew, good morning, Clankers. Did you hear that Russia is thinking about buying arms from, of all places, North Korea? Well, it'd spur the North Korean economy. You know, it's a match made in heaven. Hunter Velicky, hey, Sticks, I like your cat. I like one of the two cats that's here. The other cat, sometimes I'm a fan of her. She can be cute and do the purry furry thing, but she can be a goddamn menace as well. Pisses all over things and vomits everywhere, eats the plants and wakes the baby up. Sparky, much of Indian food was brought to the region by Alexander the Great and was forgotten in the West over time, and from parts of the Near East, Persia and so forth. There's also the Parthians as well later on. Yes, that is true. However, I would point out that Indian food is simply fucking good, and it's underappreciated by a lot of people. They'll go, I don't like the smell of curry. Dude, curry smells delicious when you're cooking. Garam masala and coriander is great and all these things. I mean, I would love to go to India, but to some small town in India. I don't want to spend time in the cities because they're too crowded for me, too much noise, too much pollution. I'd want to go out in the middle of nowhere where there's like cobras and shit like that, honestly, and tigers, and see a tiger. Ozzy's Robots. The Tea Party was the start of the current conservative populist movement around 2010. Unipartyists like McConnell have been sabotaging it since then. True. Phil H. We can't use RFK as a weapon, as we did Trump. Well, there's no possibility the weapon works. It would be like picking up a musket that you know is going to misfire. It's pointless. David Hunter, Indian food is my number one favorite among all others. Yeah, Indian and Italian food are high up there. Actually, American food is pretty good too, if you parse out all of the goy slop anyway. By the way, please send no more super chats to everyone. The 5,200 people watching. By the way, there is a link in the description to my books blogs. I'm just throwing that out there, and it's pinned at the top if you're watching on YouTube. Please buy some books. There's lots of them available. If you're into anything spooky and it's getting on towards Halloween, I got your back, Busta. The Man Behind the Screen. Morning, Sticks and fellow clankers. Hope all is well. Started my second novella this weekend in the Giant Shadow. First chapter up on my stack. Tales of Calamity and Triumph.substack.com. Clank on. Congrats. Sigil Stone. I'm sure you've never played D&D due to time, but would you make time to play Lamentations of the Flame Princess new module, The Fecal Lands by Shatner Turdsmith? It's got some interesting shit. Yeah, I don't do much gaming. I mean, when the next Elder Scrolls title comes out, I'll get it. When the next Fallout comes out, I'll get it. Pepe Payne, see you finally coming around to my prediction of Trump winning as an independent. Goes back to the pledge, will not run as independent or write-in. That's why he won't sign. GOP dumps, this happens. Yeah, crushing the GOP in the process if that occurs. I still think it's more likely he simply becomes GOP nominee. I think that the simplest explanation to what we see right now is the most favorable one. Trump wins in a landslide in the primaries, then we go on to the general. We see what happens from there. That's less predictable. The Patriot Cairo. Trader Joe's middle school visit was purely a photo op to make libturd NPR boomers believe he cares about black kids' math scores. Same old act. I think that even the most developmentally unable kid in that school could probably school Joe Biden on any test anyway because his mind's melted. BW, think Cornell could be a spoiler? Yes, Cornell West, if you look up matchup polling, when he is present, drops about 2 points from Joe Biden, which means that things are the ball is in Trump's court at that point. Yeah, Cornell West could easily throw the presidency to Donald Trump, which would make the liberals. Can you imagine the white liberals ranting about this evil black dude who's actually on the left ideologically instead of being a neolib? And how fucking funny that would be. We've got to do this. You don't understand how funny it would be. This would make 2016 look like boring, basically. It'd be the greatest thing ever. Hilarious. A million white liberals blaming the black dude for Donald Trump being reelected from house arrest in the Mar-a-Lago, most likely, by the way, at that time, while still under other indictments. It'd be anarchy. The rioting would be funny, too, because then the left can continue to show its ass, burn more black-owned businesses, and then claim to be progressive. Ozzy's Robots. Lived in southern Italy for a few years. Epic food. Now, I want to go and see Tuscany in the center of Italy. One of the most beautiful looking places in the world, actually. Along with Norway and Finland and a few others. Wasted Bonehead. Sigil is obsessed with poop. I forgive him for pooping on my grave. Yeah, you just can't help it. You're undead, so you don't have to have bowel movements anymore. You can just munch on the brains and you sweat it back out or whatever you do. Living people, we still have to poop, and so it's a problem. He had to go. Your grave was bigger. That you should be proud. Your gravestone was bigger than the others because you were more successful in life, and so that was the only one big enough for him to hide behind while he was pooping. Maybe that's Sigil Stone's explanation. Next news story, and the final one. China mobilizes the country to look out for foreign spies. Offers big cash rewards. I would just like to point out briefly here, and again, please send no more super chats unless absolutely necessary, because I've got to reheat the chili. I've got things to do. I've got to go pet the cat or something. China is now beginning to resemble the United States. I'm proud to say they become westernized now. The United States has been doing this bullshit now for the last few years, hasn't it? How is there a difference? I just wanted to challenge people in the United States, my fellow Americans. How is China and the United States basic policy any demonstrably different? You've got social credit. You've got literal social credit in China. You got ESG in the US and similar things. You've got censorship. You've got pressure on tech firms. The US government has been doing that vociferously over the last few years. We know that from the Twitter leaks, among other things, the Twitter papers. Zuckerberg even was talking about that. And he's an enemy of free speech. And even he was willing to admit to it. Now, China is mobilizing people to look out for foreign spies, which is easier when you have a more ethnically homogenous culture, I suppose, although, never mind. I probably can't say that part on YouTube. The U.S. is doing the same thing. I mean, are we so innocent? Look at the United States' constant fixation on foreign disinfo and things like that. Be on the lookout online. If you see something that questions the official narrative, it's probably from Russia. Well, I mean, other than not offering people a financial reward for identifying the material, what's the difference? So the United States is basically China plus more greedy, and they don't want to pay anybody the money. Like, at the very least, why don't you throw somebody a $5 when they identify something that conveniently you can call Russian disinformation? At the very least, more people would be amenable to it. You know, people have got to eat, especially with Bidenomics. Pay them $20 to identify some social media post that they think came from Vladimir Putin, and you get plenty of takers. The liberals would fucking do it for free. Other people, you have to pay them because they understand the concept of work and capitalism, I suppose. Yeah. It's basically the left wing of the U.S. is no different from Chinese official state policy. And the unipartyist neocons play suit too. I mean, they do the same thing. What do you hear from goddamn Mitt Romney or Lindsey Graham or these other people? It's basically the same crap. It's the same shit. So, yeah. I'll be supporting Trump because hopefully he can go after China some more. You know, apparently they're flush enough, so now they're paying people to simply identify espionage agents. You know, 99.9% of the population happens to be of one particular ethnic proclivity. This person over here looks a little bit different from us. He's 6'5" and a black individual. He's probably from some other country. Well, let's follow him around and see if he says anything anti-China. That's what's going to happen, by the way. This is going to lead to racial discrimination. Nevertheless, some groups will actually support the move. 8hog, thankful to clank with you this fine morning. Always thankful for a clankful. Sigilstone, now I'm stocking up on cruciferous vegetables and duck for my next raid on Bonehead's tomb. I'm going to blow that bastard apart. Yeah, cruciferous vegetables are good, by the way. You're not supposed to eat too many of them, though. It can be bad for your kidneys. You have to limit yourself. By the way, that, what the fuck is it called? It's that little innocuous weed with the stubby leaves. Portulaca, actually, the wild one that grows. It's a weed in gardens, but it's delicious as a garnish. Tastes amazing. You're supposed to cook it, but you can't eat it raw. And you got to pick it in the morning, though. I think if you pick it in the afternoon, it gets bitter. Let's see here. King of Biltong. Anton, you were late today. Good morning from Anton's in Roanoke, Texas. Free shipping on your Biltong, sticks, tumblers, and t-shirts using code STICKS on antonsusa.com and landofbiltong.com. Sorry for running late today, everyone. Hashtag Clank Nation. He was busy eating, probably. You were stuffing your face with Biltong again, weren't you? Don't lie to me, boy. No, it does look delicious, though. Yes, there are now shirts available in his physical store outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they're available online. So if you use promo code STICKS, you can get a shirt. You can get a tumbler. Or you can just get a big pile of meat if you're in the United States. Cross-shipping internationally can be a hassle. Sparky. I love Indian food, too. Used to be a great mom and pop all-you-can-eat lunch buffet near me. When the parents retired, the kids didn't take it over. That's sad. Same with the Chinese restaurant in Rutland. They had some amazing shit. Third generation. They were around since the 1920s. And last I knew, it transferred to new owners who were Vietnamese instead of Chinese. It's called the Kong Chow Fusion. Still very good food, admittedly, and a larger menu. They've cleaned the place up. But I don't know. I like the old family-friendly hole-in-the-wall sort of retro 20s look of the old place more. Still good, worth checking out. The Vietnamese coffee is delicious, by the way, and definitely packs a punch. At the very least, you can get dim sum. Al Creeper 67. Hey, bud. No rant. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to go offline now. I thank you to the 5,200 people who tuned in live. I will be tuning in tomorrow, of course, with another live stream, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little bit later, and we'll discuss the news for tomorrow as well. So congrats to anyone from India who happens to be watching, or Bharat, as it supposedly will be called not too long from now. I will look into the mosquito helicopter story that people are telling me about. If somebody wants me to DM me on Twitter, story about that, that's always helpful. Please always DM me with news stories. You can always archive them first today using archive.today, and I always appreciate that as well. So that's about all. Peace out.